This is News of Today, the first AI-generated news podcast with all the news that you should know. Produced by Summ-it.
Welcome back, everybody. You know how it is out there these days. The news just comes at you like a fire hose.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees, you know?
You said it. Feels like every day it brings a new crisis, a new outrage.
Right. And it's so easy to just get swept up in all that noise. But today, on this deep dive, we're going to do things a little differently. We've got a whole stack of news articles here from all sorts of publications, left, right, center, international, you name it.
Oh, we've got a good mix.
We do.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to sort of extract a signal from the noise, if you will.
I like that.
Help you understand not just what happened, but why it matters, and how all these seemingly disparate events might be connected in ways you wouldn't expect.
The hidden patterns, right?
Exactly.
The threads that tie it all together.
The threads. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to embark on a whirlwind tour of current events. But don't worry, this ain't going to be your typical doom scrolling session.
No doom scrolling here.
We're going to have some fun with this. And hopefully you'll walk away feeling a little more informed and maybe even a little more hopeful.
I'm all for hopeful.
All right. So first up, let's talk about Europe and their rather ambitious plan to launch their own secure satellite network.
Oh, yeah. Iris.
Iris, that's the one. By 2029. Now this, to me, feels like a major power play in the space race.
Oh, it definitely is.
What do you make of this?
Well, I think it speaks volumes about the EU's desire for what they call strategic autonomy. You know, they want to be less reliant on other countries, especially when it comes to something as crucial as satellite infrastructure.
Right. Because, I mean, think about it. Communication, GPS, even financial transactions. So much of modern life relies on satellites these days.
Absolutely. And, you know, with all the geopolitical tensions simmering, especially with Trump back in the White House.
Right. Like, how does that factor in here?
Well, the EU wants to make sure that its citizens and businesses aren't left vulnerable if, let's say, relations with the U.S. were to take a turn for the worse.
Makes sense. It's almost like having a backup generator for your entire digital life.
That's a great analogy. Just in case the power grid goes down. You never know when you might need it.
Exactly. And what's really interesting about this Iris network is that it uses a two-orbit system.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty innovative.
Which means they can achieve better coverage with fewer satellites compared to, say, Starlink.
Right. So it's more efficient, less space debris.
Potentially a more reliable and eco-friendly satellite network for everyone in Europe.
I mean, that's the hope.
That's a win-win in my book. Okay, now let's shift gears for a second to a story that feels like it's ripped straight from a spy thriller.
Oh, I love a good spy thriller.
Me too.
Yeah.
We're talking about the sudden departure of Bashar al-Assad, the former president of Syria.
To Moscow.
Yeah, what was that all about?
It's like shrouded in secrecy.
So much speculation.
He claims his departure was at Russia's request. And that's according to his first public statement since the collapse of his regime.
Interesting timing, though, isn't it?
Right. After a week of silence.
Makes you wonder, what's the real story here? Right. Is he trying to control the narrative?
Possibly.
Especially with all the reports coming out about his regime's atrocities.
Yeah, those are hard to ignore.
And then there's this bombshell from the Financial Times. Apparently, Assad flew a staggering $250 million in cash to Moscow between 2018 and 2019.
Wow. $250 million. That's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of cash. What do you make of that?
Well, it raises a lot of questions, doesn't it? Was it an attempt to evade sanctions? Was he securing his family's future? Anticipating the fall of his regime?
Or maybe something else entirely.
Exactly. It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces.
Lots to unpack there.
Yeah.
All right. Now from the complexities of the Middle East, let's hop over to Belgium.
Okay.
Where the economic forecast is looking a little less cheerful.
Yeah, not so rosy.
Not so rosy.
The National Bank of Belgium, the NBB, they released a pretty sobering assessment of the country's economic outlook.
Yeah. And this isn't just some abstract economic data. These trends have real implications for people living and working in Belgium.
Yeah.
So for the average person, what's the main takeaway here?
Well, the NBB has basically ruled out any significant real wage increases for the next few years, beyond adjustments tied to inflation.
Oof.
Which I know is not what people want to hear.
Not at all.
And this is largely due to what they call the wage gap, meaning that Belgian wages are already relatively high compared to neighboring countries.
So basically, no big raises on the horizon.
Not according to the NBB.
That's tough. And as if that wasn't enough, The MBB is also sounding the alarm about the housing market.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
What's going on there?
Well, they're seeing a classic case of supply and demand imbalance. Construction permits and investments are down, meaning fewer new homes are being built.
Okay.
But at the same time, demand is up. So you've got this shrinking supply and a growing demand, which puts upward pressure on prices.
So it's becoming increasingly difficult for people to buy a home in Belgium.
That's the trend we're seeing.
And to make matters worse, there's this planned increase in the cost of dienstenchecks coming in 2025.
Oh, yeah, that's going to sting.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with that term, dienstenchecks are basically vouchers that people use to pay for household services, like cleaning or gardening.
They're very popular in Belgium.
Super popular. So this price increase is going to affect a lot of people.
It is. And it'll likely contribute to inflation, further exacerbating the wage gap issue.
Wow.
The NBB is painting a pretty bleak picture of economic stagnation.
Yes, doesn't sound good.
It's definitely a cause for concern. And, economic stagnation can have serious social and economic ramifications down the line.
Absolutely. This is something we'll have to keep a close eye on.
For sure, yeah. It's a complex situation with no easy solutions. And speaking of complex situations, let's turn our attention to Germany, where the political landscape has just undergone a dramatic shakeup.
Yeah, big time. Seems like Chancellor Olaf Scholz just got to roll the dice, call for early elections after losing that confidence vote.
He did. Pretty bold move considering his current unpopularity.
Yeah, like how risky is this for him?
It's a gamble, for sure. I mean, his government was already in a pretty precarious position, technically operating in this caretaker mode.
Right.
So this confidence vote, which, he intentionally lost.
Oh, so it was deliberate.
It seems like a strategic maneuver to trigger these new elections.
Okay.
Set for February 23rd.
So he's hoping to regain some control, maybe strengthen his position before things get any worse.
That's got to be the thinking.
But, I mean, could this totally backfire on him?
Oh, absolutely. Early elections are always unpredictable. And with Merkel's CDU party gaining momentum in the polls...
Oh, yeah. They're looking strong.
There's a real possibility that Scholz's gamble could lead to his party losing power.
Which would be a huge shift. And it brings up this, this crucial question. What could a change in leadership in Germany mean for their support of Ukraine?
That's the big unknown, isn't it?
Right. Like a new government might have different priorities.
Exactly. And, Germany's been a key ally to Ukraine, providing substantial military and financial aid.
Yeah, they've been a major player in this conflict.
So any shift in that support could have a significant impact on the war's trajectory.
Yeah, this could really shake things up.
Mm.
And speaking of the war in Ukraine, there's another layer of uncertainty now. With Trump back in the White House.
Ah, yes. The wild card.
Right. His recent comments about U.S. support for Ukraine have raised some eyebrows, to say the least.
They have.
So he publicly criticized President Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied missiles against targets within Russia.
Called it a very stupid thing to do.
Yeah, pretty strong words. And he's hinted at potentially reversing this policy if he wins the election.
Right. So we've got another layer of uncertainty here.
Big time. So what could this mean in practical terms?
Well, it could signal a pretty significant shift in U.S. policy towards the conflict. Imagine if the U.S. were to, reduce or even halt its military aid to Ukraine.
Oh, that would be huge.
It could embolden Russia, increase the pressure on Ukraine to negotiate a peace settlement.
Potentially on unfavorable terms.
Yes.
This is a development we'll need to watch very closely.
Absolutely.
And to add to the complexity, you've got Russia claiming these major advances in the war. But at the same time, we're seeing reports of successful Ukrainian drone strikes deep inside Russian territory.
Right. It's a very dynamic situation.
So volatile. No clear end in sight.
It's a stark reminder that we live in a world where geopolitical events can unfold very rapidly and with far-reaching consequences.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a lot to take in. But, can't just focus on the big geopolitical stuff.
Right. There's always more to the story.
Exactly. So let's shift gears for a moment. Talk about some other global developments that caught our eye.
Sounds good.
First up, it seems like Iran is grappling with some pretty major power shortages.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Schools and public services have been shut down for days to try and conserve energy.
Wow, that's serious.
Yeah, what's causing this?
It's a combination of factors, it seems like. Fuel shortages and this sudden cold snap, that's put a lot of strain on their energy infrastructure.
Oh, wow.
It's a reminder that even seemingly stable nations can be vulnerable to disruptions in their energy supply.
Yeah, makes you think, doesn't it? All right. Here's a development that might resonate with anyone who's ever tried to get work done on a train.
Tell me about it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So Belgium's national railway company, the NMBS, is testing a new way to improve mobile internet on trains.
Okay, how are they going to do that?
They're using this special laser cut coating on the windows.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's designed to allow mobile signals to pass through more easily.
So potentially a more stable and reliable internet connection for passengers.
That's the goal.
That would be amazing.
I know, right? Imagine being able to seamlessly work or, stream movies
Like video chat.
during your commute.
It could totally change the way we use our travel time.
I'm here for it.
Okay.
Now for some somber news out of the U.S. A school shooting in Wisconsin has tragically claimed the lives of 3 people, including the young shooter.
Awful. Just awful.
It's a heartbreaking reminder of the ongoing issue of gun violence in the U.S.
Yeah. It's a deep-rooted problem. Despite all the calls for stricter gun control measures, these incidents continue to occur with alarming frequency.
It's hard to even process sometimes.
It is.
All right, let's end this segment on a slightly more optimistic note. Greece has just approved its budget for 2025, and it includes some pretty good news for its citizens.
Oh, what's that?
The budget includes provisions for tax cuts, salary increases, and increased defense spending.
Interesting.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, it suggests that Greece is feeling confident about its economic prospects, but also, mindful of those regional security concerns.
Right, they're trying to strike a balance there. Okay, now on to something that has the whole world buzzing. Bitcoin has exploded to a record-breaking high, over $106,000.
Wow. It's been quite a ride for the cryptocurrency market lately.
It has. So what's driving this surge?
It seems like a combination of bullish sentiment and speculation, driven in part by Trump's suggestion that the U.S. might create a Bitcoin reserve.
Like similar to its oil reserves?
Right.
That would be a game changer.
It would be a huge validation of cryptocurrencies, could lead to even wider adoption.
And speaking of exciting developments, there's good news for anyone traveling between Brussels and Amsterdam.
What's that?
A new Eurocity direct train line has just been launched, cutting travel time by a whopping 45 minutes.
Fantastic. That's a big improvement.
Right.
And, this is part of a broader trend we're seeing, investment in European rail infrastructure.
Yeah.
Which is a positive sign for the future of environmentally friendly transportation.
Agreed. And lastly, Apple is diving headfirst into the world of AI with its new Genmojis feature.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So what are Genmojis?
Well, they use artificial intelligence to allow users to create personalized emojis, offering a whole new level of customization and expression.
Cool.
It's amazing to see how rapidly AI is being integrated into our daily lives, opening up all sorts of possibilities.
It's mind-blowing. Okay.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
You have.
From the geopolitical maneuverings around satellite networks to the very real economic anxieties in Belgium, and that tragic reminder of gun violence in the U.S.
Right. It's been a whirlwind.
It's clear that we live in a complex and interconnected world.
That we do.
But amidst all the uncertainty and the challenges, there are also these glimmers of hope and progress, like the advancements in sustainable travel and the exciting potential of AI.
Exactly. It's a world that's constantly evolving, demanding that we stay informed, adaptable, and engaged.
Yeah, no passive observers allowed.
Agreed.
Really does make you think, doesn't it? Like, what skills do we need? What knowledge do we need to navigate this rapidly changing world?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. So what's your take? What's the most important takeaway from all this?
For me, it's the realization that we can't afford to be passive observers anymore.
Right.
Whether it's, the geopolitical landscape, the economic challenges hitting closer to home, the rapid advancements in technology, all these developments have the potential to impact our lives in profound ways.
Big time.
So we need to be proactive.
Proactive.
In understanding these trends, critically evaluating the information we're bombarded with, and adapting to change.
Adaptability. That's key. I couldn't agree more. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture, and being prepared to, adjust course as needed.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we aim to do here on the Deep Dive. We hope we've given you some food for thought today, some new perspectives to consider.
Some aha moments.
Some aha moments.
Yeah.
So what about you? What stood out to you from today's Deep Dive?
Yeah, what resonated with you?
What connections did you make that maybe we didn't mention?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Hit us up on social media. Send us an email. Let's keep this conversation going.
Because the world is full of fascinating complexities. And the more we understand, the better equipped we are to navigate the future.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, stay curious.
Stay engaged.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into
the ever-changing world we live in.
Until then, take care.